For decades, whispers surrounded Princess Diana's private affairs, but no one imagined the truth would come from a vault sealed in her name. When a sealed trust fund document surfaced, even Prince Harry was unprepared for what he'd uncover. The name inside wasn't William, it wasn't Harry, it was Charlotte. And Meghan's world shattered in an instant. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. It began without warning, quietly, without public notice or ceremony. Deep within Kensington Palace, behind heavy doors known only to a select few, a vault was unlocked by special order. This was no ordinary archival retrieval. Palace sources say the access came after a confidential royal legal milestone was triggered, though what exactly that milestone was remains buried in bureaucracy. But what was found inside would send tremors through every corridor of the monarchy. Among meticulously preserved belongings and correspondence, there lay one envelope sealed, unmarked except for a handwritten initial, D. Its contents were chilling in their clarity. The document was dated mere weeks before Diana's final journey to Paris. A trust, meticulously constructed, bearing clauses with strict conditions. But the most jaw-dropping detail wasn't the structure, it was the beneficiary. As Harry read the contents aloud to the attending legal counsel, the room reportedly fell into a stunned silence. Princess Charlotte of Cambridge was the sole recipient of a massive trust fund. Diana had set aside no mention of William, no mention of Harry, no mention of their future children. Except her. One name, one purpose, one legacy redirected. Harry's reaction, according to a palace insider, was a blend of disbelief and sorrow. Eyewitnesses described his hand trembling as he lowered the document, lips parted in silent shock. Behind him, Meghan stood frozen. The Duchess had joined the meeting at Harry's request, expecting perhaps another vague relic or minor inheritance. But the reality unraveling before her was far from expected. It was emotionally catastrophic. She did not speak. According to a source close to the room, aides quietly took her aside before she could address the matter publicly. Her voice was never heard on the topic again. What followed was the most conspicuous silence imaginable. Meghan, once vocal and unfiltered when it came to injustice, said nothing. No public comment, no Instagram cryptic posts, no discreet leaks through friendly journalists. It was as though the truth had locked her in place just as tightly as the vault door had once protected Diana's final will. But the silence spoke volumes. The absence of Archie's name, their firstborn son, Diana's grandson, was more than an omission. It was an erasure, an intentional one. Behind the scenes, questions swirled. Why now? Why Charlotte? And why such precision in Diana's timing? The legal trigger for the document's unsealing remains classified, but speculation points to a deadline clause set against the age of Charlotte, or perhaps a future political shift within the royal structure. Regardless of the trigger, the revelation detonated in the heart of a fragile monarchy still grappling with fractures caused by the Sussex departure. Harry and Meghan had long felt outside the inner sanctum, but now it was confirmed in writing, by Diana herself. Or was it? But as whispers turned into gasps, and Charlotte's name echoed through royal halls, one pressing question emerged. How long had this been kept from Meghan? As word of the trust fund broke within palace walls, Meghan Markle reportedly found herself cornered not just by family, but by silence. What began as confusion quickly spiraled into carefully orchestrated control. The Duchess's voice, once powerful, suddenly vanished from all public discourse. Why? In the hours that followed, the vault's unsealing, the palace descended into a mode that some insiders call containment protocol. It wasn't the press that posed the greatest threat, it was Meghan. Her potential reaction, her reach, her narrative. And so the walls began to close in. According to one former staffer, Meghan was issued an explicit instruction she was not to comment on the trust fund matter publicly, privately, or even obliquely. The order didn't come from Charles. It didn't come from William. It came from within the very machinery that shields the crown from exposure, the silent custodians of legacy, power, and reputation. Meghan, known for her outspoken resolve, was now expected to fold herself into a silence that wasn't voluntary, it was demanded. From that moment, a quiet, deliberate lockdown took hold. Meghan's personal staff were reportedly instructed not to pass on any legal updates unless sanctioned by a designated liaison. Communications she had once taken for granted, briefings, notes, even informal chats, slowed to a trickle. When she tried to make inquiries directly, she was redirected. Again and again. Behind the gates of privilege, the tactics resembled something far more clinical, an erasure in real time. Then came the most chilling detail yet. Meghan's personal mobile devices were said to have been secured for routine audits, only for a private message to vanish without explanation. That message, reportedly sent to a longtime friend, had voiced just one line: "This changes everything." The friend never received it. The record, according to leaked testimony, was scrubbed within an hour of its creation. Soon the people closest to Meghan began falling away. Calls went unanswered. Trusted aides, once by her side through legal wars and press firestorms, were reassigned or unavailable. The justification: heightened security protocol following classified information breaches. But nothing had been leaked. Nothing had been shared. It wasn't protection, it was prevention. The Duchess, it appeared, was being muted not just from the public, but from herself. The higher the stakes became, the more invisible she was made to feel. And yet, not everyone was flustered. While Meghan reportedly spiraled, Catherine remained hauntingly composed. The Princess of Wales, often measured and precise, appeared unmoved by the emotional landslide. Some interpreted her silence as loyalty to the institution. Others whispered it was something colder, a quiet satisfaction that the story now revolved around her daughter, not her sister-in-law. Catherine never said a word. She didn't have to. Meghan's panic echoed loudly in the vacuum left behind, while Catherine's stillness only deepened the contrast. For Meghan, the world narrowed into a chamber of control, one where every whisper was calculated, every silence weaponized. She, who had once held the global microphone, was now the one person not allowed to speak. And yet, just as the pressure reached its peak, another revelation far more controversial was waiting in Diana's sealed document, and it would bring Prince Harry to a line he never imagined crossing. While Meghan struggled in silence, Prince Harry was about to come face to face with the most controversial clause in Diana's sealed document. Buried within Diana's trust papers was a clause so specific, so intentional, it sent shockwaves through the legal team. Diana hadn't simply left something for Charlotte, she had written a future for her, to the exclusion of nearly everyone else. It wasn't just the trust fund itself that stunned the room, it was the précis, eon with which Diana had mapped out her intentions. Nestled between the financial arrangements and legal jargon was a handwritten note, preserved in faded ink, unmistakably hers. 6 haunting words, underlined once: "For the one who carries my fire, not my name." It wasn't addressed to a person, it was addressed to an idea, someone who would rise not because of lineage, but because of spirit. The fund, as revealed in Diana's detailed instructions, would remain dormant until Charlotte reached the age of 10. Only then would it be activated, untouched, uncompromised, unshared. Not by George, not by Louis, not by Archie, not even by Lilibet. The clause was final, ruthless, and legal. What shook everyone wasn't just the content, but the date. The document had been drawn up in 1996, a full year before Diana's death, and long before her sons had even met their future wives, let alone had children. Yet there it was, typed in formal ink and confirmed in her hand: "My son's second daughter shall inherit this charge." The language was old world, yet disturbingly precise. How could she have known? Was it instinct? Was it paranoia? Or was it, as some murmured later, prophecy? For Prince Harry, the revelation struck with devastating clarity. He sat motionless as the solicitor read the clause, then read it again for confirmation. "She knew," he whispered, barely audible. The phrase would later be repeated by others in attendance. It wasn't clear whether he meant Diana knew what the future held, or that she knew whom she wanted to protect from it. In that moment, every memory of his mother, every speech, every letter, seemed to collapse into this one surreal betrayal. A future where his own children were legally, intentionally absent. But beneath the surface, another emotion burned: guilt. Meghan's silence had been imposed. Harry's, however, was chosen, and that silence now felt complete. The deeper he read, the more evident it became that this wasn't about inheritance. It was about legacy. A fire Diana believed would return not through bloodline, but through something unspoken, perhaps even spiritual. And she believed Charlotte carried it, not Lilibet, not the girl who bore her name. Meghan had wanted to honor Diana through her daughter's name, but Diana had already honored another, without a single word spoken to the Sussexes. For Meghan, this was not just exclusion. It was erasure, a revision of destiny made before she even arrived on the scene. And as whispers of this clause filtered through the cracks of the palace walls, one question began to rise louder than any other, a question the firm had dreaded from the start. As Charlotte unknowingly became the centerpiece of a royal financial storm, Meghan began asking the question the palace feared most. Was this exclusion personal? Trapped between loyalty to his mother and love for his wife, Prince Harry entered a private breakdown unseen since the days after Diana's funeral. The man who once said what Meghan wants, Meghan suddenly found himself silent. In the days that followed the clause's unsealing, Harry withdrew not from the public but from Meghan. There was no announcement, no visible fracture, but something had splintered beneath the surface. Sources close to the palace revealed that he requested a private meeting with royal legal advisors, a meeting Meghan was not invited to. The man who once stood beside her through press assaults, courtroom showdowns and televised confessions was now confiding in the very institution they had once accused of betrayal. For hours, Harry sat with legal teams reviewing every line of Diana's trust, searching not for loopholes but for meaning. And yet, there was none that offered comfort. Every clause felt deliberate, every omission sharp. Then came a leak. A page from Harry's private journal, never meant for public eyes, surfaced quietly online before being hastily pulled. In his own words, scrawled and raw, he wrote, "I am my mother's son, but also my children's father. I cannot be both." It was a cry from a man caught in the undertow of legacy. He knew what Diana meant to him, but he could not deny what her silence now meant for Meghan. Her trust in Charlotte was a rejection not just of Lilibet, but of the life Harry had built beyond the palace gates. What made the wound deeper was William. After days of mutual silence, Harry received a text from his older brother. It contained only 6 words, "Now you know why we waited." There was no explanation, no empathy, just the insinuation that this revelation had been known, buried and timed. The same brother who had once walked beside him behind Diana's casket had watched him walk blindly into this storm and had said nothing. To Harry, that silence was louder than betrayal. It was calculation. Back in their quarters, Meghan reportedly collapsed into tears behind locked doors. Staff passing in the corridor said they heard muffled sobs that lasted well into the night. The strength she had shown in public, the carefully guarded resolve, had crumbled in private. She hadn't just been excluded from Diana's vision, she had been erased. And worse, the man she depended on was now adrift in his own turmoil. The once unshakable force behind Archewell, behind their media presence, behind their unified front, was no longer making decisions. Rumours spread through their camp that Harry had requested a pause on all strategic moves. He was still present, but no longer leading. And in his silence, the palace stirred. Harry, once the advocate and fighter, had become a reluctant observer, unsure of where he belonged in the shadow, of his mother's intentions, or in the arms of the woman she had never met but whose life she had now inadvertently upended. But just as Harry tried to reconcile the past with his present, a surprising royal figure stepped in to challenge everything Princess Anne. Long considered the most unshakable royal, Princess Anne broke her silence, revealing she had been entrusted with one of Diana's final wishes. Her revelations would flip Meghan's narrative upside down and place Charlotte at the heart of a dynastic shift. The silence that had smothered the palace halls was shattered not by scandal but by duty. Princess Anne, the ever-steady force behind the crown's discipline, emerged as the unexpected guardian of one of Diana's most closely held secrets. In a private briefing to select senior royals, Anne disclosed that she had, for years, been in possession of a sealed addendum penned by Diana, one that was never included in the formal trust filings. She said she had held it until the time was right, and now, With Charlotte at the precipice of turning 10 and tensions cracking through the monarchy's core, Anne believed that time had arrived. The contents of the note, while not disclosed in full, made one line unforgettably clear: Diana's desire for a future queen in spirit, not in title. That phrase would become the center of a growing storm. It wasn't a legal document, it wasn't enforceable, but it was Diana and in the royal family that carried more weight than any signature. Anne explained that Diana had shared her vision of a granddaughter who would one day carry the moral compass of the crown, not by rank or hierarchy, but by sheer will. Charlotte, Diana had believed, would be that compass. And Anne, who had often been at odds with royal sentimentality, had quietly agreed. While the rest of the family had debated protocol, Anne had watched Charlotte, not through the lens of tradition but through instinct. "She's not her. Mother's echo," she reportedly told a confidant. "She's her grandmother's spark." Meghan, learning of Anne's quiet custodianship, was reportedly furious. In a private request, she asked for a meeting to discuss the note, what it said, what it meant, and why she and her daughter had been excluded from its spirit. Anne granted the meeting, but only once. According to palace insiders, it was tense, brief, and final. When Meghan pressed Anne on why Lilibet, Diana's namesake, had been overlooked, Anne answered with chilling precision, "You either preserve the legacy or rewrite the shame. Your daughter deserves the truth, not the weight of an apology." The room fell cold. Meghan is said to have left without a word, but the significance of Anne's involvement could not be overstated. For years, she had been the Queen's unwavering executor of judgment. If Anne had chosen to validate Diana's vision and place Charlotte at its center, it meant the highest echelons of royal power were already aligning behind the young princess. Even King Charles, despite his complicated relationship with Anne, had long trusted her instincts over most. And now those instincts had drawn a line across generations, choosing Diana's spirit over modern claims of justice. What began as a legal discovery had now become a symbolic war. A war over legacy, identity, and the soul of Diana's memory. As Anne stood her ground, the media caught wind of the brewing storm, and the world's gaze turned to Meghan once more. Suddenly, silence. No headlines, no interviews, no palace leaks. A media blackout swept over the UK, leaving only encrypted whispers and anonymous leaks. But behind closed doors, a war of influence began, fought in shadows, sealed with loyalty or betrayal. It didn't take long for the palace to act. The moment Anne's revelations circulated among the inner royal circle, a coordinated effort surged into motion, unseen by the public, but unmistakable to those who understood the signs. Major UK media outlets, from broadsheets to broadcasters, received subtle yet unmistakable guidance. Certain topics were now sensitive, certain narratives were to be approached with restraint, and certain names, above all, were not to be questioned. No formal gag order, just polite reminders from the invisible hand of royal advisory liaisons, ensuring the press understood where the lines had been redrawn. Behind the scenes, Meghan wasn't staying still. According to sources close to her circle, one trusted friend attempted to leak a version of events to an international outlet, hoping to reveal the emotional fallout behind the palace gates. The story was ready. The details were precise. But before the piece could publish, its credibility was shredded online. Anonymous accounts flooded the internet, labeling the friend a liar, a fame seeker, a fraud. Within hours, the outlet backed out, the article vanished, and the friend was forced offline. It wasn't coincidence, it was a warning. In place of facts, something else began to emerge, a campaign. Almost overnight, royal-adjacent platforms began quietly reshaping the narrative. "Charlotte is the future" trended in subtle waves, phrases repeated across comment sections, lifestyle blogs, and parenting pages, always anonymous, always enthusiastic. It wasn't about royalty, it was about destiny. The public was being led to believe this young girl, seemingly innocent and unknowing, was chosen not just by her lineage, but by something deeper. And all while Meghan remained disturbingly silent, the royal PR machine painted her with careful brushstrokes. supportive, understanding, removed from controversy. The same woman who had once taken on the press with fire was now, by all accounts, a picture of poised detachment, but the illusion wasn't flawless. Royal correspondents began whispering about unusual conversations. Some even claimed to have been privately cautioned not to speculate too deeply. One journalist, known for pushing boundaries, reportedly received a late-night call from an unlisted number. The voice was calm, courteous, and firm. "Not everything is meant to be published. Choose wisely." Within a week, they pivoted to lighter stories, and the deeper questions went cold. Fear was creeping in, not of backlash, but of something far more orchestrated. And amid all of it, Charlotte, now making more frequent, curated public appearances, stood at the center of a campaign she never asked for. Her images began to carry weight. Her presence began to feel staged, smiles crafted, moments choreographed. The crown had chosen its symbol, and the machinery of monarchy was moving fast to protect her narrative. But protection breeds pressure, and as the palace buried truths and sculpted fictions, a new tension was rising within the young girl herself. While the public was fed carefully curated imagery, Charlotte was about to learn the truth behind her growing royal spotlight. Unaware of the chaos unfolding in her name, young Charlotte was shielded until she wasn't. When fragments of the trust story reached her ears, the princess broke her silence with a question that stunned her nanny. "Why me?" It began, as many royal truths do, in hushed tones behind closed doors. Charlotte, now old enough to observe what wasn't said as much as what was, overheard two senior staff whispering in the corridor. They didn't see her approach. All she caught was the phrase, "the fund," and her name. It was a simple exchange, quickly silenced when they realized she was listening, but it was enough. The seed of curiosity had been planted. Later that night, in her room, she turned to her nanny and asked if she was getting something from Grand Diana. The woman hesitated. She tried to brush it off, but Charlotte had already noticed her reaction. The evasive smile, the deliberate change of subject, it confirmed more than any answer would have. The next day, Charlotte went to the one person she trusted more than anyone, her mother. Catherine, caught between truth and protection, found herself face to face with a question she couldn't deflect. "Am I supposed to be like her?" Charlotte asked, her voice more confused than hopeful. Catherine paused, her silence lingering too long. She had been coached, prepared for all sorts of future conversations, but not this one. She gently replied that Diana had always hoped her spirit would live on through someone strong, someone kind, someone brave. But even as the words left her mouth, Catherine knew what her daughter heard was something far heavier: expectation. Behind the scenes, William was already wrestling with the weight of what the documents had unleashed. He had promised himself and Catherine that Charlotte would be raised without the burdens he and Harry had endured. But Diana's ghost crown, as one insider called it, now hovered over his daughter's head. The trust wasn't just financial, it was symbolic, and symbols in the House of Windsor carry consequences. William swore privately to keep Charlotte grounded, shielded from being turned into a legacy she didn't ask to carry. But intentions, especially in royalty, rarely align with outcomes. As the days passed, Charlotte began asking for more stories about her grandmother, not the fairy tale version offered at bedtime, but the woman behind the headlines. She wanted to know who Diana really was. The questions weren't rehearsed, they came naturally, like a child trying to piece together an inheritance that wasn't made of jewels or titles, but of emotion. She asked if Diana liked animals, if she got nervous speaking in front of people, if she had secrets too. Catherine answered each one with tenderness but also with dread, because with each question, Charlotte was stepping closer to a history shaped by decisions she had no hand in making. And while the palace scrambled to contain the narrative, the one girl at its center was no longer just a name on a document. She was awakening to a reality neither her parents nor the monarchy could fully control. But even as Charlotte grappled with a legacy she didn't choose, Meghan had one final move left, and it would shake the palace at its core. After weeks of silence, Meghan Markle re-emerged, not in an interview, not in a statement, but behind palace doors. What transpired in that private confrontation with King Charles is still shrouded in secrecy, but one thing is clear. She didn't leave quietly. The meeting was not scheduled. It wasn't discussed. It wasn't granted through aides or advisors. Meghan requested it directly, cutting through the layers of formality the monarchy so dearly clings to. Insiders say the palace hesitated, not because they feared what she might say, because they feared what she had learned. Yet Charles, always conscious of appearances even in private, agreed. And so, on a Wednesday cloaked in routine, Meghan walked back into the heart of the institution she had fled, not for reconciliation but for reckoning. The conversation behind thick doors lasted under 20 minutes, but its echo has not faded since. According to royal staff positioned nearby, Meghan's voice was controlled but unmistakably sharp. She didn't beg, she didn't protest. She accused. With precision, with finality, she placed before Charles the unbearable contradiction between Diana's myth and the monarchy's manipulation. Her words, as later recounted by someone who overheard fragments, included the line that now circles among royal observers like folklore: "This family may erase names, but not truths." It was not a plea for inclusion. It was a declaration of what had already been lost: her daughter's place in history, her own identity within the narrative, and the myth that Diana's legacy belonged to all her descendants. Charles, ever the diplomat, didn't raise his voice. But his response, reportedly, was colder than expected. He did not deny what had been discovered. He did not offer apologies or explanations. Instead, he offered a single cryptic line: "Diana made her peace long before you arrived." To some, it was a shield. To others, a dagger. And to Meghan, it was confirmation whatever choices had been made, they had been made without her. She left through a side corridor. No aides, no escort. Only the flash of a lone paparazzi camera catching her expression, blank, unreadable, and utterly resolved. 3 days later, Arkawell's website posted a single quote beneath a black banner. No context, no names. It read, "Dignity in silence is not surrender. It is restraint." The world interpreted it as they wished. But to those watching closely, T was Meghan's final message to the monarchy, a quiet fire meant to burn beneath the surface, long after the headlines moved on. Behind the scenes, palace aides reportedly called the moment a final warning cloaked in grace. There would be no second confrontation, no follow-up, no public feud. Meghan had said what she came to say, and now the silence belonged to them. Yet as Charles returned to his routines and the palace resumed its scripted calm, a deeper uncertainty stirred in the shadows. Because no matter how carefully the narrative had been managed, no matter how fiercely Diana's memory was curated, one question refused to die, one question that threatened to unravel everything. But even as the confrontation ended, the question echoed louder than ever: had Diana truly chosen Charlotte? Or had history been rewritten in her absence? In the end, the documents were locked away again. The palace resumed its smooth surface. But beneath it all, the truth remained: was this Diana's purest wish or the monarchy's masterstroke to secure a future through Charlotte? And where did that leave Meghan? The fund, once shrouded in secrecy and controversy, was formally transferred under Crown guardianship for Princess Charlotte's benefit. The process was clinical, swift, and devoid of public spectacle. No press release, no photographs, no commentary from the palace. Just a single entry on a legal register confirming the guardianship had been enacted, with trustees loyal to the Crown now holding the key to Diana's final act of generosity or control. And just like that, the firestorm of emotion that had threatened to consume the palace was reduced to a legal transaction filed under confidential seal. Meghan, once the center of the storm, stepped back from all commentary entirely. No statements, no speeches, no subtle digs cloaked in interviews. Those close to her say it wasn't surrender, it was survival. Her silence was no longer imposed, but chosen. The voice that had once ignited a global reckoning on royal power had now gone quiet. Arkawell continued to operate, but with noticeably less public energy. And Harry, caught between the woman he loved and the legacy he inherited, reportedly requested to be removed from all future briefings related to the trust. He had seen enough. The clause, the addendum, the symbolism, it had become too much. To engage any further, he believed, would be to choose sides. And Harry had already lost too many battles between past and present. Meanwhile, public opinion fractured. Some heralded the decision as a brilliant move, a long overdue shift toward a future-focused monarchy. Others saw it as a quiet betrayal, the latest in a string of manipulations aimed at preserving the firm's image at the cost of its humanity. Commentators clashed. Royalists applauded Charlotte's elevation. Critics asked the question no one could answer: was Charlotte chosen for her qualities or for her silence? And more haunting still, had she been used? The debate reached even the historians. Was Diana truly prophetic, or had her legacy been molded to suit a different agenda? Some pointed to her original will, highlighting inconsistencies in how her wishes had been interpreted. Others insisted the handwritten addendum, entrusted to Anne, was the only true glimpse into Diana's heart. But even they couldn't agree on whether it represented foresight or fear. The more they analysed, the murkier the answer became. Perhaps that was the point. In the House of Windsor, clarity is never the objective, control is. And then, the final image. Quietly, without announcement, staff at Windsor moved one of Diana's portraits from a lesser-known gallery and placed it beside Charlotte's in a restricted wing of the palace. No ceremony, no headline, just a placement, a pairing, a message written not in words but in walls. To some, it symbolized legacy. To others, haunting foreshadowing. The past, positioned beside the future, in the one place the world could not access but the family company. Would never escape. The cameras fade, the corridors quiet, but the story is far from over. In the House of Windsor, silence is never the end. It's just the pause before the next storm. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.